You'd be hard-pressed to find the reality in most modern reality television shows, but one of the worst offenders may be the Discovery Channel hit Moonshiners, partly because its goings-ons are less dirty money and more squeaky clean. Making moonshine remains illegal in the United States, so how can the stars of Moonshiners break the law on national TV and stay out of jail? Well, according to local law enforcement, it's because Moonshiners is about as real as Teen Wolf. An exasperated alcoholic beverage control spokeswoman informed the Associated Press that the show only features dramatizations of moonshining, adding, "If illegal activity was actually taking place, the Virginia ABC Bureau of Law Enforcement would have taken action. Doubtless, the Bureau will eventually take another look at the show just as soon as they stop those pesky Duke boys from terrorizing Hazard County."
Fighting the system like a true modern-day Robin Hood.
Moonshiners is produced by reality TV behemoth Magilla Entertainment, which also makes shows like America's Worst Tattoos, Submissive Wives' Guide to Marriage, and Militia Rising. Their finest work is unquestionably King of Thrones, a show that can only be described as Pimp My Ride for toilets.
You've got rear bidet, front bidet, butt dryer. You also have full music on here.
Deodorized feature.
Unfortunately, Magilla's shows have been repeatedly accused of misleading viewers. For example, an episode of Lakefront Bargain Hunt depicts an interior decorator named Robin Corbet choosing between 3 different houses. In reality, Corbet bought the winning home almost 2 years before the show taped. The show Southie Rules was widely panned for being obviously scripted, while the less said about Long Island Medium, the better.
Wow, you can see into the present.
In other words, Magilla may not be the gold standard for keeping the reality in reality TV, or even the cubic zirconium standard.
It's a made-up tale.
The first season of Moonshiners featured Special Agent Jesse Tate of the Virginia Alcohol Beverage Control Bureau, although attentive viewers noted that he never interacted with the Moonshiners or gave any indication he was aware of that aspect of the show. Sure enough, the furious Bureau later claimed the producers had lied about the kind of program they were making. In a statement, the Bureau insisted Virginia ABC agreed to participate in an informative piece that documents the history of moonshine and moonshine investigations in Virginia. Virginia ABC did not participate nor was aware of the false depiction of moonshine manufacturing, distribution, and/or transportation in the filming, and would not have participated in the documentary had it known of this portrayal. Jesse Tate, for obvious reasons, did not reappear in Season 2.
I don't think your manager would appreciate it.
I don't appreciate your ruse, ma'am.
I beg your pardon?
Your ruse, your cunning attempt to trick me.
When it comes to depicting real crimes, reality show producers have to walk a fine line. Under U.S. law, witnesses to a crime aren't actually obligated to stop it from happening.
Are you sure it's legal? Of course it's legal.
For example, on A&E's reality show Intervention, a camera crew followed a visibly intoxicated woman as she climbed into her car and tried to drive away. Even if she had hit someone, A&E wouldn't have been responsible, since its crew were merely observers and did not prompt the woman to drive drunk.
Well. If it isn't the big-time, hotshot lawyer man.
However, if a show deliberately puts people at risk, then it could be liable to legal action. One man settled out of court after he was hit in the face with a shoe during a fight on The Real Housewives of New Jersey. His lawyer claimed that the fight was staged and that the producers should have taken precautions to ensure bystanders weren't maimed by flying stilettos. Big Brother also had to settle a lawsuit after accepting a housemate with a history of assault, who proceeded to threaten another contestant at knife point. Because the stars of Moonshiners are paid to appear on the show, the producers would almost certainly be liable if anyone was injured from drinking illegal alcohol produced for the show. Since sheer insurance costs haven't shut down production, it seems likely that no actual moonshine is being sold on the Discovery Channel's dime. Although it's illegal to distill spirits in the US without state and federal permits, it's not like those permits are impossible to get. With the publicity from the show, it would be super easy for the show's stars to secure backing and go legit. This is exactly what cast member Tim Smith did, partnering with the Prost Beverage Company to market Climax brand moonshine in stores nationwide.
You can have the pretty bottle, and you can have my pretty face on it, but it's all about what's inside.
In other words, even if the show does feature real moonshining, it's not because the cast members are desperate criminals with no other options. They're just deliberately choosing not to get the correct permits for the sake of the show. Hopefully, more reality shows embrace this model, since Extreme Makeover Home Edition would definitely be more interesting if all the work was done at night, with no planning permission.
Yeah, I've made all kinds of liquor in my time. I've made the fighting kind, the loving kind, the crying kind.
The show does feature unquestionably real footage of moonshine being produced by legendary bootlegger Popcorn Sutton. However, this footage wasn't filmed for the show. In fact, Sutton sadly took his own life in 2009, 2 years before Moonshiners first aired. Before he died, he was the subject of the acclaimed documentary, This Is the Last Damn Run of Liquor I'll Ever Make. The producers merely bought the rights to the movie and used the footage in the first season of their show. At the time of his death, Sutton was awaiting trial for, among other crimes, illegally distilling spirits, a charge notably avoided by the stars of the show, who we viewers are expected to believe are doing the exact same thing. When asked how they get away with breaking the law on national TV, the stars of Moonshiners usually have a simple answer. Nobody can prove they're actually doing that. Tim Smith told Bourbon Blog that it's not enough to see someone making something that looks like moonshine. Instead, physical samples of the product you're producing have to be taken and analyzed. Meanwhile, Josh Owens told Motorcycle USA that, "I'm not in jail because it's not evidence, for one, that I'm on TV making moonshine, and for two, I could be doing anything. It could be just water." Either way, Owens argues that the cops, quote, got a lot bigger fish to fry than somebody just making a little bit of something to sip on, which does kind of undercut the show's daring outlaws premise. When McGilla Entertainment started working on the show in 2010, executives thought that focusing on illicit moonshiners would be legally risky, probably because, well, it is. Instead, they planned to feature licensed moonshiners going legit. Unfortunately, that turned out to be incredibly boring. As producer Matt Ostrom told author Jamie Joyce, a legal distillery is not the most compelling thing. It's not like people on boats hunting alligators or fighting giant seas. It's literally water boils. As a result, McGilla went back to the outlaw concept. Although the producers insist that the finished show does depict illegal moonshining, their legal worries presumably didn't just vanish, suggesting that the criminal activity might not be all that it appears. Ultimately, the doubt may be half the fun. Maybe it's real, and probably it's not. Either way, it's definitely entertaining.
How are we gonna explain that to the police? We out here with cotton candy.
You got moonshine and you got cotton candy. Did you go rob the street fair?